Meeting, it's a workshop meeting, June 3rd. Would you all please join me in a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So our objective tonight is to discuss and consider extending, first of all, the charter for the Village Bridge Ad Hoc Committee, and then we'll discuss the creation of a new committee, Piscataqua River Waterways Advisory. So first we're going to start with the bridge. There has been, Andy, do you have the edited copy of this?
I don't think I have it of that.
I've got, I think, 5 copies, so these are the ones that I shared by email.
Thank you very much.
I go.
Most of this was discussed at the last meeting, where we've already gone through some of it. Some of it was already taken care of. The chart, what the committee's final report. So you'll see the redacted copy that Derek has provided with us. Take a minute and read it.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to speak to a couple of the changes
Yes,
that I had
go right ahead.
for recommendations. I think one of the changes would be on page 2 under the committee membership. The Goffstown Parks and Recs Commission has not, they did not name a commission representative to this committee or to the Bridge Ad Hoc Committee that preceded this specific one. Rick has been serving in that capacity, so my recommendation would be to remove that representative and change it to a member from the community at large. So that was one of the ones on that. And then what I tried to do is take some of the deliverables from the ad hoc committee's report that they presented to the select board at the May 6th meeting.
So, question if I could, so is the Parks and Rec Commission agreeable to being removed?
Yes, Rick said that the Parks and Recs Commission, I think they want to focus a little bit more on the recreational offerings as well as what they're going to do with their facilities moving forward, especially in light of the closing of one of the pools and the bond, or I guess the engineering study on Barnard. I think they want to focus a little bit more on their mission there rather than getting involved with the bridge.
Did you look it over? Andy,
Quickly looked it over. I actually would defer to the committee.
I'm not seeing anything that I didn't already, I think we talked a little bit about this and the changes in the membership. Sounds fine.
With regards to the park and recs.
Do you mind just coming up to the microphone?
Yeah. Thank you.
we are broadcasting, by the way, so you might.
Andy Catterett, 22 West Union, Goffstown, Chair of the Village Ad Hoc Committee. With regards to the park and recs, I would assume that this bridge would, if it's created and if it's constructed, if there's funding available, Park and Recs would be taking over the maintenance of that, or who would?
I think that would probably actually go to DPW simply because of the structural component of it and the fact that they maintain the other bridges for the town.
So at just some point, whoever's going to be maintaining this long term would want to be involved, but I guess that would be
Involved in what, the construction of it? Is that what you're worried about, or?
You would want input there. Like, I have no idea how wide a tractor is to plow it, or what the weight limits need to be. But that would be all through a feasibility
We don't
study.
plow the rail trail. We don't maintain the rail trail during the winter. So we wouldn't be putting the sidewalk plow across that.
Okay.
We don't,
Yeah, I don't know safety wise what, I don't know safety wise, can you have a bridge that has snow in it? I don't know the answers to that. So that's.
Well,
that
then
was
we
my
would have to
input.
close, I would assume we would close the bridge off.
I don't know.
What do they do in Manchester, David?
I have,
Use a snowblower.
Huh?
Use a snowblower.
I'm
Yeah, I
David,
think they're open.
I'm David Pierce, 21 Mill Street, and I'm an officer in the Friends of the Rail Trail. Manchester has, on occasions, sent a sidewalk plow over the Singer Bridge.
Okay, thank you. I don't foresee us doing that, only reason because when you come off the bridge, I don't know where you would go. Would you be piling it up in the road or, you know?
I'm just bringing it.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't want anybody to anticipate or to say that, oh yeah, we're gonna maintain that and plow it in the winter.
Yeah.
David, go ahead.
And the park department, the rail trail is a park, public park, operated by the park department. And they advocate for snowshoes and cross-country skiing on the rail trail in the wintertime, and consequently is not plowed.
Right.
Bridge would be the same.
Does that answer your question on that, Ann?
Yep,
Maybe.
it does, it does. It was more about the membership and who,
Yep, I
you know, who
understand.
should be on that.
We just have to be careful, be honest with you, we have to be careful with what we're doing with our staff.
Yeah.
People on here are, you know, when you get to the select board, you know, that's, Collis said he now is taking care of it, and we hope somebody will do in the future. Economic Development, Conservation Commission, we can't tell them that they have to have a representative there. I can only ask them if people want to participate in that, and it's, you know, that's the only, I don't think it'd be mandatory that they send somebody.
And I think you have it covered under section 4, the last book, you know, red line, staff shall be available to provide professional support to the committee and to answer questions at scheduled meetings. So that does cover.
What you're talking about?
Under 4, the red section, the town staff shall be available to provide professional support to the committee and answer questions at scheduled meetings.
And we can't guarantee that. I just don't think we can guarantee that. You know, it's just, our staff is right now pretty stretched, pretty thin, and unfortunately, we don't have any funds to increase our staff, so. And again, you know where I've been coming from all along. I don't want anybody to think that we adopt this, that we agree to any funding in the future. We can't do that. Even if you come up with a grant, there's no guarantee that this board or the future boards are going to say, yes, we're going to fund it. You have to understand that ahead of time.
Okay, I understand that.
But you don't agree with it, I mean.
No,
you got like a smirk on your face that
I'm
like-
just questioning, I'm just with that feedback to you is, do you want this committee, would be with that support. If you want this committee to move forward, it needs support. And part of that support would be from the select board. So I'm just asking.
I understand what you're saying,
You know.
but to say now, with the situation we're in and what we see in the future.
Absolutely, I
To
get
ask for us to guarantee there'll be financial support, there's no way we can do that right
Understood.
now. I hope you can understand
Yep.
it. Not that, if things were bright and rosy and, you know, we were flush, it'd be okay, but the way things are now, we're running a default budget. We got some more expenditures coming up. We got some infrastructure issues we have to take care of. As you heard, we closed the pool because it needs lots of work and we didn't have the funds to do it. So, I mean, I don't want to guarantee or say that this board we're on board and we're going to fund it in the future. That's not, I just want, and that's my opinion now. What the rest of these folks say, that's up to them,
Right.
you know. Collis, go
Well, as
ahead.
far as a member of the Parks and Rec Commission serving on this committee, they may not want to have anybody serve on the committee. To me, the important point is, do we think there's value added to have somebody from Parks and Rec serving on the committee? I think there is. I mean, it certainly is a valuable recreational asset to this community. And, you know, we have them on the committee, whether they show up and attend the meetings or not, I guess will be up to them. Maybe we.
If you want to leave a slot for them,
Well,
is
that's
that what
I'm
you're
thinking.
saying?
Yeah.
We can, but just as long as as you realize that it's up to them. And I would not say, I would not force the Parks and Rec director to be the person to do it.
No.
If there's somebody from the Parks and Rec Commission that wants to participate, I would agree with that. How's that?
Absolutely.
you know, but it's not fair to have Rick doing all, you know,
Absolutely.
more and more things when he's doing, trying to run a department. Anybody else got any other questions or issues on this?
Derek, do you know when Rick respectfully stepped back from this? Did they offer it to the Parks and Rec commissioners, or was it just purely?
So
from
Rick
a staff
has
perspective?
been
Yeah, he's been active.
attending, he's been attending when he's able.
Yep.
Yeah,
When he's able. I know that sometimes he does some refereeing as well as they also have some after-school programs that he's attended to. So I don't know exactly what meeting, but what Rick has told me is he has offered it to the commission members, and they did not name a representative to either ad hoc committee dealing with the pedestrian bridge.
This is long, I think the whole thing here is, we're not gonna force them to go. Just like we can't force anybody, you know, from economic development or any of those, we can't force them to go. I mean, if somebody decides to go, Conservation Commission, Main Street, if they wanna ask somebody to volunteer to participate in that, that'd be fine. Now, has somebody been coming from EDC?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Good.
That you mean.
Oh, that's a problem right there. Okay, great. Anything else on this?
No.
So the only thing that I would want to make sure they add is that the select board has not, I don't know how you would put it.
Committing any funding?
Right. Is that fair?
Yeah,
I would add that, Adams, Derek.
I can put that under the, a note under the deliverables and deadlines, and then provide you a signature copy for your
Yeah.
meeting on the 10th. What was the select board's preference? Do you want to put the Parks and Rec Commission representative back in and reduce the at-large members from the community at-large back to 2? Is that the only other change?
That'd be my preference, personally. You know, none of these folks are required to attend these meetings. These are recommendations as to how we think, what the best form of this committee would be. And I would think it would be valuable for Parks and Rec to at least have the opportunity to have somebody represent them.
Have a voice on the,
Yep,
I mean, I've sat in on pretty much every committee in town as a fill-in or whatever, and there are times you have a full committee, there are times you don't have a full committee, and, I mean, if a decision is made and your voice is not heard, oh well, so be it, you have nothing to say.
yep.
I mean, leave it there, and if they decide to show up, fine, if they don't, they don't.
At least have a seat at the table if they want,
Yeah,
if they
exactly.
desire.
They don't, yeah, exactly.
whichever is more beneficial is fine with me. The community member or Parks
Yep.
and Rec, so.
Well, that's just a potential, you won't have enough people show up. Go ahead, David.
Yes, I'd like to speak on one point, the second bullet on the first page. I'm very pleased that you made a decision through this charter. Do you want to, would you, at some point in the future, would you like a separate 501c3 to assist the town, or would you like to have a partnership with an existing group? And this lays the conceptual framework for the committee to establish a relationship with an existing 501c3. You know, I'm pleased to see that in this charter. And the actual implementation of any agreement, I know that the recommendation from the committee was immediate. I'd like to step back a little bit from that. There would be no need for establishing such a partnership unless you apply for a grant, or even to the point where the grant is awarded. And then at that point, if you think it's appropriate still to raise money through a 501c3, then at that point, establish a partnership. And this lays the framework for doing that. I'm pleased to see it.
I understand what you're saying. So you're saying if you get approved the grant, but those grants usually require a percentage or a guarantee of, David's waving his hand back there. Come on up, bud.
Cheers.
Hi, David Neiman, Conservation Commission rep. I would like to see it a little bit more explicit that we were authorizing the Friends of the Rail Trail to be that entity, to be able to do the fundraising and accept funds. Not wait till the last minute when we're applying for a grant, because people can make pledges. They don't have to actually write a check. They can make pledges in advance so that by the time you get to the point where applying for the application, you have some idea of where you stand.
You have a
I think-
pledges for this amount of money that,
I would counter argue that a little bit. Yes, okay, conceivably raise money, but then if the town does not get the grant, what do we do sitting on the money?
You don't sit on the money, it's a
No.
pledge. A pledge is not the same as a check.
Oh, okay, I didn't
Yeah.
hear the word pledge.
Because I feel like then you have a much better footing and position when you're putting the application in the grant to know that you have some commitments. I mean, they're not ironclad, they're not, sue you if you don't donate or anything like that, but you have a position, you know where you are. I think that can be helpful, and to have that arrangement beforehand, I think is important, and I think it'd be good right up front if the Friends of the Rail Trail is amenable to that, to say, we would like the Friends of the Rail Trail to fulfill that position.
One point of caution, were the town to apply for a grant and be successful, and there's pledges for some amount of money, town can't go under a contract because there's a pledge of donations. The money has to
They
be
need money.
fully appropriated in order to enter a contract.
Absolutely.
The benefit of the pledge is that, like at the Pumpkin Regatta, for example, we would be able to promote something, and we should know, we should be applying around that same time, David, timeline-wise?
One grant will be announced this fall.
Yeah.
But in
what does that mean?
I think that means the application period will open this fall.
There'll
Yeah,
be-
this fall.
There'll be a
Yeah,
30 or 45-day application period, just like any other grants that you're very familiar with, Public Works apply for. And, Public Works would seek the approval of the board.
And is this project done in phases where you would get a grant for the study or the engineering, or would it be piecemealed? Is it something you do all at once?
I would I would advise that the transportation alternative grants are the full scope. The study, design,
And then so
construction money plus professional engineering oversight.
and how long do you get to use those
The town
grants?
did exactly the same thing with the a 2010 transportation grant that resulted in the construction of the 2 crossings on Mass Road.
Yeah, but they weren't $1.3 million, so.
They're 800,000.
So you're granted, you put the grant, you submit for the grant, all of a sudden you get the grant. How long do you have to raise the other funds?
If the grant was announced this fall, the winners would be announced May or June of '25,
Next year?
and the money is good for 5 years. So you have to write your final check within 5 years.
So you have that amount of time?
You have a little front-end time there to raise the 20% match.
Okay. Anybody got any other questions?
I just want to get back to the pledges issue that, it is a very competitive process. And when the grants go in, if your application can demonstrate that you've got community support through any number of means, including pledges, if you can demonstrate some pledge support for this, it goes a long ways when the grant applications are being reviewed, evaluated, and ultimately awarded. So there is value to being able to demonstrate pledge. That's
My concern is that all of a sudden you get the grant and then they want to know you're
Yeah.
using the 80%. Where's that coming from? And you're going to have to say the town's going to do it? Or are you gonna do it by pledges? Are you gonna fundraise? That's,
Yeah.
it's just a whole thing that
Oh, the 20%.
yeah.
Okay.
And that will be closely scrutinized once we get into the grant application process itself. So we'd have to take that step to get into the process, and then the grant-ors would say, okay, well, here's what you need to do. You need to demonstrate your 20% by this date. You either do it or you can't.
I know,
Yeah.
David, you've done some where we used in-kind
Yep.
DPW stuff. Well, DPW is not building this bridge.
That's right. So there's a very slim opportunity for in-kind services.
Right.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, so I would imagine we just go ahead with the project, or we want to wait and bring it up at the next meeting?
If you want to take a motion on exactly that you would, that you'd like to see the recommended changes made, and you can take a final vote next week. The only change would be to return a Parks and Recs Commission representative to the committee, and a bullet under the deadlines and deliverables that the select board is not committing any public funds at this time.
So we redraft the charter at this point with
Yeah, so you'd be-
recommendation changes, and then bring it back for final action.
Yes, at your next meeting.
Yeah,
Collis made that motion.
yeah, I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Collis, seconded by Mark. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. Let's move
Thank
on
you.
to Piscataqua River Authority Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
Now, do you have a copy of this with me?
Here, I've got 6 copies of this one that we can share. So on this, again, this was presented to the board at a meeting in April. The original draft charter was presented by resident Andy Catarat as an advisory committee, I think in response to the news that we got last year from DES and the dams. So I used that as a starting point. The recommended changes that I've made that you have before you. One would be to focus more on the matters relating to the 3 dams impacting the Piscataqua River, and to remove some language that was in the proposed charter about the tributaries and within feeding into the Piscataqua River. It is my feeling that that is already something that is commented and controlled by our zoning ordinance, the wetland setbacks that we have, and is overseen by the Conservation Commission for the most part, especially when there's any applications relating to that. And then there was also a mention in there about erosion or stormwater control devices. That is something that DPW is responsible for under the town's EPA MS4 permit. The other recommended changes would be to remove the representative from the Goffstown Parks and Rec Commission and the Goffstown Department of Public Works, similar to the discussion we just had on the last ad hoc, and add in the Piscataqua River Local Advisory Committee, PERLAC, and then to appoint alternate committee members. And the only other, I think that was pretty much, those were the main changes that I made from the original proposed charter.
So I have, so basically we're talking about narrowing the geographical scope of this, which I have no problem with. I think, in fact, I think that may be better, to start more narrow, more focused, and then as the committee does their work and it becomes apparent that it's more, it'd be useful to expand a little bit more to the tributaries, well, we can deal with that as time progresses. But I think in this case, I think narrower and smaller might be a better place to start.
To me, I think what brought this all to a head, or bringing all of this stuff to a head, is dams. And I think originally it was, we need to have a committee to discuss the dams. And I think this kind of went a little bit further than the dams. And I think that's where we need to focus on. I don't think we need a committee that's gonna be walking along the shorelines or doing this and say, hey, you're doing this wrong and doing that wrong, and bringing it to us as the board. We have people that do that, and the state has people that watches shoreline.
To me, I think the most important part of this document is on page 1. It's Roman 3 subsection A, engage with stakeholders. I think that is the meat and potatoes of this. That's what I think the intent of this is, to engage people, to keep people informed, and allow them the opportunity to engage in the process, and keep it open and active, and keeping all the communications open. I think that's really important, because as we chatted a little bit, Peter, you know, there's often so many messages being sent out that people don't know what's going on.
Exactly, but, and as we found out with a friend of ours that was, had an issue, like on Glen Lake, we don't have any authority.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, if you've got more people complaining and all you can do is tell them we don't have the authority, which we don't have the authority.
Well, do we talk about?
You would know more about
Well-
waterways and stuff, so.
Well, I think what we're talking about is we don't have any authority to usurp authorities already vested in other federal, state, regional
Yeah.
entities, you know what I mean? So in other words, DES has already got a statutory authority. We can't usurp that, we have to work within that. I think, and how we word that, I'm not sure, Derek, but I think that's kind of where we're,
Well, I think if you look at the mission and the objective, it's kind of stated, it's really to advise the select board. This would be an advisory committee to the select board. And then under the authority, it's really to, and it's marked out as conduct research, analyze data, gather public input, and to make recommendations. So again, there's no really other authority other than to advise the select board on matters related to the river and specifically those 3 dams.
To what, but that would be specifically to the dams, I would think. I don't think we want to start talking about what people are doing with their docks or anything like that. I don't think that's our privilege or.
And I think, hopefully, that's the way I tried to write it. It's in all matters relating to Piscataquag River with focus on Hadley Falls Dams, Kelly Falls Dams, and Greg Falls Dams.
Okay.
Just a question for Collis on number 1, mission objectives. How do we control the water quality, Collis? Is that something that we get the state to get involved with? Or, I mean, we don't have any jurisdiction over that, do we?
well, we don't, although the town does have opportunities to engage relative to water quality issues, like for instance, reviewing wetlands applications and whether or not proposed projects will impact water quality. So there are opportunities to engage in that sort of a fashion.
But we already have
But-
people to do that.
Yeah, but we're not gonna say you have to maintain certain water quality standards. I mean, that's way above and beyond anything we'd ever want to take on.
All right, that's fine.
Because then you get into testing and sampling, testing,
Yep.
analyzing, yet, I mean,
Like we did a few years ago when we did all the brooks and
Is it,
all the tributaries.
would it be appropriate to ask, I mean, this is, the way you're talking and the way we're talking is like, this needs a whole rewrite. A different scope, which is the scope is the dams.
What do you mean, up here?
I think under missions objectives, again, I used the proposed charter that Andy had presented to you, and I did reduce some of the scope that he had and tried to focus it more on the dams and the river.
But the name of the committee, Piscataquag River Waterways Advisory Committee, I think
Yeah, if you wanted to change the name of it.
Yeah,
then you could
I
do
don't,
it.
I just seems that's all encompassing when you say it that way.
But does this,
Which word, water, which is a word that's problematic, Peter, for you, waterways or?
Yeah, Waterways Advisory Committee, I think that's all encompassing.
Since you could, I think you could achieve the result that you're looking for just simply by taking waterways out of it, if you just keep it as the Piscataquag River
Advisory Committee.
Advisory Committee.
but this bit, does that clarify it enough for you?
Understand, I'm talking about the,
No, I know, I'm just asking that part, does that,
yeah, but it's
Clarifying
still
enough.
confusing when you have the waterways. I like the idea of doing away with the waterways. What do you think, Carlos?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I think that word maybe is a little bit nebulous and too far reaching.
Encompassing you. Again, we'll get a rewrite of this and talk, and Mr. Bruno.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Just like to make a question, really. Dick Bruno, 17 High Street, Goffstown. The way we, in our discussions with the group that we had, we talked about the DES funding. And much of that funding, as they tear down a dam, that being Hadley Falls, which is pretty much, we know is going down, there'll be funds available to reconstruct around where that dam was. It can be beautified, it can be, there's a lot of things that could be happening. So my question to you all, do you envision this covering that aspect? In other words, would this committee be able to oversee those things that go along with the removal of the dam? Not just saying, okay, you know, we have, there's feedback, we hear that the other dam is going. I think it should encompass a bit more, because there's a lot more that may happen that will concern the center of town, where the
well, what do
dam
you,
is.
what do you mean when you say oversee?
Well, I think there'll be a lot more feedback and being able to be liaisons, I guess, with DES, to be able to filter some of that information. Obviously, I know you folks, like you say, have a lot on your plate, so that we can be basically, or that committee can be the conduit for that and say, okay, how does this affect us? Where are these funds going? How can we use these funds? And I know the state has certainly most of the control, but there's going to be a lot of questions and also answers that we may want to feed back to them as to what we envision that we'd like that area to look like. I think it's an important aspect. After, when that dam goes away, what's going to happen then?
If I could,
That's, yeah,
if I
okay.
could add also, Andy Catter, Goffstown. I think it's like, you know, some examples could be a design charrette. You know, as opposed to we just saying, this is what it's going to look like. This committee could host that, and that's where it's the engage with stakeholders, conduct research, so pull that all together, say, hey, these are the different proposals, you know, this is the way it's possibly going. And that also gets to this idea of not limited to, but preserving sustainability, resilience, recreation, water quality. I agree that it's not looking at the water quality, but whatever is going to be there, that's the question we have to ask. How is that going to impact Glen Lake when this is opened up and the water is coming through a lot faster? Where's that sediment going? So those are the questions that a committee like this could ask to stakeholders, or at least bring forward to talk about.
Yeah, I
Do you-
think, go ahead, can I?
Well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that that's important, and I anticipate that those concerns be brought forward to us. I guess we would have to clarify, as this is a partnership and advising the select board, that we clarify how that communication takes place, because we need to make sure that across the board, we're on the same place. And I by no means want any committee member reaching out to DES if we're doing it in other places. That needs to be streamlined, absolutely. So to your point, I mean, I think all of those things absolutely can happen if we clarify the how of that, how that's being communicated and by whom, and who would have the release authority, I guess you
Right.
could say, for those kind of things. Just like, you know, you could bring something to the select board, a community release. Okay, go ahead, do it. And you know what I mean? Like those distribution of efforts, I think, could be made based case by case, and, you know, if you're like, well, we're fully ready to take this on, we're gonna do it, I think obviously there's situations where that would be more than appropriate. But I don't,
I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't too narrow, and I think we have the wording correctly, but I think it can be interpreted differently too down the road. That's what I'd be concerned about, because we're wanting to make sure that if the state is offering us something, and we have the choice, the chance, as Andy said, to be able to, you know, set up a design charrette, to be able to bring people together, input from the boards. That's, I think, should be under the auspices of this type of committee.
and I think we're saying the same thing, just in reverse, though, that the select board is the authority on that, and
Okay.
giving the grace or guidance or approval to let the committee operate on their own, or with the conjunction of it needs to be together. I don't think we
You
should
can't
be
have it-
taking matters like that without input, like we do with most other committees, with conservation committee. You know, we ask for input when it's appropriate from whatever committee we're dealing with, just as we would never expect a committee to operate on behalf of the town on their own. Does that make sense? We're saying the same thing,
Absolutely,
just in reverse,
Yeah,
I think.
no, absolutely.
But situationally, if there was a timing issue or something like that, we typically would handle those on a case by case, of like, we have to act quickly, what do we need to do? Can they, you know, cover this? We kind of have to, I think, figure that out as we go, based on like who's doing what and how, and is it efficient, and does this make sense? Is there too many checks and balances? And, you know, we gotta, I think we kind of have to figure that out, whatever happens. Who knows? It could be a lot of opportunity or maybe none, and we kind of have to go.
That would be the dialogue that would go between.
Correct. Oh,
the
I
board.
envision at
But
least.
I'm close to that. What I'm saying, I think it's the select board that has that, and then asks the input of your committee. So the select board would be, you know, saying, okay, the state's gonna come up with a plan. They're gonna say, here's a plan, this is how much money we have, this is what we think we can do with those funds. And then we can take a look at it and say, ask for that, your group's input. You know, I don't want to think that you're given a bunch of money and you're gonna, that's.
No, I'm not looking for us to make the, or that committee.
That's what I'm
to make-
saying, you know.
No,
but
no,
that-
no.
Yes, but that fluid relationship of if
Right.
they find opportunities that can be brought to the board for the town
Right.
to act in some capacity, we would obviously want that as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I guess I brought it up because I just wanted everybody to understand as we're talking about it, that there's a lot more that can happen that's related to a dam that's no longer gonna be there. It's gonna be
Yeah.
what replaces the dam, and I would.
Well, they've already sent one plan out, I'm sure you guys have already seen it, so.
Briefly,
Right.
I don't think we have a copy
I
of it,
didn't,
but
that's.
So, Peter, a couple
Public
comments
information.
based on now what I've heard from other folks. I think clearly we should get rid of the word waterways. This is just a Piscataquag River Advisory Committee. We've only got one waterway. To say waterways plural just sort of implies something bigger than we really, I think, intend this to be. So I'm fine with taking that word out. And it does say, what was the other thing that somebody mentioned? Oh, it does, it all matters relating to. That would include a plan brought forward by DES saying, hey, we want to take the dam out, and in doing so, we want to create pavilions and fishing platforms and walkways. And so those are all matters relating, so it's captured here.
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, I appreciate you moving this forward, thank you.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Okay, so with the changes we've made, and there's no, once we get the whole thing and get looked at, finished, there may be some, you know, i's to be dotted and t's to be crossed, but, at the next meeting, but,
So redraft and bring it forward again?
right, make that motion, Collis?
Yes.
Seconded by Kelly?
Sure.
Seconded by
Yes.
Kelly this time. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. So at our next meeting, we should have,
Yeah, I've actually been editing it, so I'll send it out to you I'll send it out to you by email, so if you can just look at, I'll send you a clean copy, as well as the additional red lines. And then we'll have it on your agenda for your meeting on the 10th, a week from tonight.
You won't be.
I will not.
A week from tonight is,
A regular meeting, the
What's the
June
date?
10th, Monday.
date is the 10th?
Yes.
Okay.
All set, Carlos?
Yeah, I'm only hesitating because the day before is a celebration of life for my sister who passed away, so I may be torn in a bunch of different directions.
Yeah. Well, we have, Kelly won't be here, she'll be in
Yeah.
Germany. Anything else? Motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion by Mark, seconded by Collis. Any discussion, information? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? Motion passes.
Thanks, folks.
We are adjourned.
Appreciate your input.
The time difference